Hello there, guys, and welcome back to my channel for our reaction. Our not instant reaction this time. We're here 2 hours late. Was other stuff to do. We're here 2 hours late, and we should have used the 2 hours to calm down. Did we? Did we not? I guess the next hour or so will tell us whether we did. But Chelsea failed to win. Chelsea failed to win. One of the biggest must-win and true must-win games you can ever really imagine and think of. We bottled it again today. Not only did we need a win against a relegation-threatened team at home because our run-in is super difficult and we're in an incredibly tight fight for top five against a lot of other teams around us, even for purely just our honor. The fact that for a promoted team who are getting relegated again, the fact that we didn't beat them once this season, shocking. Absolutely embarrassing. Some people might have forgot we lost 2-0 away to them in, I think, January or December. It was absolutely diabolical. And I don't know how I feel about today, because today is one of those games where I'm like, things just went against us. And by that, I mean, we played all right, played pretty well, you could even argue. Concede a goal out of their first moment of attack. And then Chelsea happens. The stadium goes quiet. The away fans start laughing at us. The players start to kind of falter. They make it 2-0. And that was kind of that. There was a split second of hope when we did get one back 20 seconds into the second half. There was a bit of hope there. It took us too long to get a second. It did come eventually through an absolute worldie by Jadon Sancho. But unfortunately, it was not enough. Ollie, I am very glad to be joined by you today. Thank you very much. Like I asked you when you joined, we had a couple of hours to calm down. It's one of those games where we're maybe not sat here just with pure anger. It's just almost, I don't know, just misery and almost admittance to we're just shit. We're just not good enough, are we?
Yeah, we're just shit, aren't we? Yeah, it does feel a little bit like that. It's almost like it's like a I'm not angry, I'm disappointed kind of vibe. For sure. I think that because I think realistically now with Champions League on the line, even top five is going to be really, really difficult now. Because Leicester was one of the games we really needed to win, and now to get back to and to get back to even that level, we'll now have to beat like Newcastle or Fulham or one of the tougher teams that we've got coming up ahead. So it feels again like I feel like I'm like a broken record because we were talking about this after Brentford. That just didn't. I don't know. Seemed like we didn't really want it. Didn't feel like we really tried to win. It felt like we were more reacting to being embarrassed by going 2-0 down. I do praise the boys for like the fight back, I suppose, but they should never really have been in that situation in the first place. It's just a really deflating result because we are better than them. We're a lot better than them, and we've got 1 point from them this season. They've just had our number this season, and soon they are going to go down, and we won't have to deal with it anymore. But it's until whoever comes,
we can't even get revenge next season.
Do you know? No, because we won't get it. That's the we'll get battered home and away again. So I don't know. It's a disappointing one. There was some good in there. There was some real bad in there. I just can't be that like upset or like angry, to be honest with you, because like you say, I think football sometimes is just a bit like that. They scored with their first 2 chances. We took 30 chances to score 2, right? Like it's just kind of sometimes football goes that way. Maybe you could blame the players, maybe it's the manager, and we'll get into all that. But my word, it's looking tough now, isn't it?
It is looking tough. You can see the table as it is right now. Newcastle currently winning 4-1 against Man United, and Newcastle still have a game in hand from their Carabao Cup final weekend. But we are currently only 6th, which is obviously not ideal. After the easiest fixture that we still had left, that was that today. So, not great to be dropping points in that. Now, like Ollie said, of course, we have to give a little bit of props, a little bit of credit for at least turning it around to a 2-0 from the 2-0 down. I don't know. I'm not even fully sure if I go along with we didn't want it today, because I felt we started well. I felt we were on the front foot. I thought there was intensity there. I saw Madueke making tackles off the ball. I've never seen that in my life, and that was still at 0-0. So you know, I can't. I'm not saying it necessarily applies to every single one, but I felt players like Caicedo, like Enzo Fernandez, Cucurella, obviously, even though he had a poor first half and was partly at fault for both of the goals we conceded, but also Madueke, there was players on it, but there was others that just weren't. Cole Palmer didn't look like he was any interested at all until the last half an hour. Nicholas Jackson, I mean, he was trying, had one chance, hit the post, should have scored. Well, he had a couple of other moments, but that was the really big one where he really should have done more with it. That was a 0-0. We got 1-0 up. It's probably an easy victory. But it wasn't to be because we're Chelsea Football Club and we have the worst conversion rate in the Premier League after ahead of only Southampton. Ahead of only Leicester. Even Southampton have got a better one than we do. So that's brilliant, isn't it?
Can you imagine if we had clinical attackers? How nice would that be? Oh, I pray for the day that happens.
Honestly, I think the clinical attackers, I think, are a myth. Maybe it's just because I'm a Chelsea fan, but I just don't really believe that they're a thing. I think maybe we just live in as some sort of simulation and every other team aren't actually real humans. You know, it's just a simulation. Just my team have real humans or something. Because I've never seen such a thing since 20. Well, when did Diego leave? That was the last
like 2017, 18. Yeah,
exactly. And even Diego Costa couldn't score more than 20 goals in a season, which is good compared to what we do now, but still nowhere near what it really needs to be if we wanted to compete with Liverpool. Like, even a 20 goal a season striker wouldn't be enough to win the league. You need someone that scores more, and we don't have remotely that. And it's a bit of a shambles at the moment. It really is a bit of a shambles. Now, I want to focus on the lineup. Or not focus. I want to talk about the lineup because we went into this game with near on our strongest 11. Near on our strongest 11. Go on. You speak.
And that hurts as well. You know, the fact that like we were for parts of the game and elements of our game, we were really, really poor despite. Yeah, I think maybe, you know, you swap Chalobah out for whoever, or you swap Tosin out for whoever and you have Chalobah play there instead if you want. But outside of maybe like a little tinkering like that, this is our best 11. Maybe Neto out, but like, you know, that more than strong enough to, well, you know, more than strong enough than the team that we pitifully, you know, just sort of dribbled out against Brentford, and then better than the team that we put up against Legia Warsaw and beat them pretty comfortably. So you would expect to see a better result, even against slightly better opposition. But Ipswich are not a Premier League team, really, except when they play us, it seems. We just, I don't know. I don't know what more we could have done in terms of a lineup.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. Like you say, you have the Chalobah at right back situation and you have Pedro Neto. Those are the only two potential questions. And then obviously, if Chalobah isn't there, putting him at centre back instead of Tosin. Now, people moaned. People were like, why on earth? Here's the remaining bench. Why on earth would we start with the centre back and right back, but having three right backs on the bench? Because we had Malo Gusto on the bench, who did come on at halftime for Tosin, and then Chalobah moving into centre back. And we had Reece James on the bench, and we had also Josh Achimpong on the bench, who is obviously mix of right back, centre back. Nowadays, also midfielder. Maybe that's just a Maresca thing, though. But for me, it's like, well, Reece James started the last two games, which I was incredibly surprised about, that he started away at Brentford. There was a left back / left centre back. And then he started again in midweek against Warsaw. Didn't expect that, but I suppose there was a 4-day gap between Sunday and Thursday. Well, between Thursday and Sunday is only a 3-day gap, so I guess maybe that's partly why. But Reece was never going to start again today. Malo Gusto, now first of all, he was absolutely woeful every time he's played the last few weeks. So I don't understand why people are crying over him not playing, because a week ago you were saying he can't ever play again. So I don't know where that's coming. But also, he would have started 4 in a row if he came to this now. And then Josh Achimpong. Now, obviously, I would have loved Josh Achimpong to play. I think we probably would have been a tad better had Josh Achimpong played. But come on, man. Like, the guy hadn't seen the light of day since those 2 games after signing a new contract. Starts on Thursday. He was never going to start again. Honestly, I was surprised he even made the bench. Even if Maresca said, I fell in love with Josh Achimpong tonight, it was never going to be that. Yeah. But
a funny way of showing it. You think if you love someone, you'd be like, yeah, I'll put them in the starting 11.
No, he just knew we weren't going to win, so he was like, I'm not even going to add you to this. I'm going to save you the misery.
Oh, man.
But yeah, in terms of how we lined up, it was mostly this, but there was a lot of Chalobah going forward as well. Honestly, Chalobah did more. Chalobah had played this role better than Gusto did, in my opinion, because Gusto was constantly just stood here. Gusto did one overlap in his whole half. Chalobah was constantly overlapping. Chalobah was being way more dangerous than Gusto ever was. So I don't know, that didn't even help at all. But yeah, it was because Ipswich is back five, as we often like to do. Then we kind of play in our diamond midfield shape, which essentially allows us to have 6 attackers. So try to have an overload over their 5 defenders. But obviously their midfielders just drop deep, and it's not 6v5, it's more like 6v8. So it doesn't really help, if we're being honest. We played a lot of crosses to absolutely nobody. And you touched on it. Yeah, as always, whether you have Jackson, and I say that, whether we have Jackson, bro, we've been doing this since Conte days, crossing to nobody. Like,
I genuinely don't understand it. Other teams don't do this. I watch other teams. They don't just put the ball in the box for actually no reason when there's no one there, or like nobody who's even that good in the air in there.
Yeah.
Like, I don't get it.
I mean,
I know
Enzo
scored a header against Spurs.
But it's true.
But listen, like it's the exception that proves the rule. All right, and what we get out of crossing the ball to no one most of the time is, well, it's far less than if we just try to do something else anyway. Because 99% of the time the keeper collects it, or it's headed out, or maybe occasionally you get a corner or something. But I don't know. Yeah. I still don't know why we're doing it.
No, I don't know why we're doing it either. Fire Red says something along the lines as well. Was the tactics just to put in crosses, which was pointless? Now, I think I am also annoyed with Maresca. We'll get onto Maresca in more detail in a bit. But I do still not like this kind of idea. I'm like, the reason why we play so many crosses is because Ipswich put 9 players in and around the D of their own box, right? They had all of their 5 defenders plus 3 midfielders plus 1 attacker in that area until 30 yards from their goal. There isn't anything happening through the middle except shooting. And sure, we scored 1 worldie with a shot. We had a couple of others that attempted it, but you're not going to play combinations through 8 players. That's not going to happen. There's a reason why they do this. There's a reason why Bayern Munich hit cross after cross against us in 2012, because we parked the bus. And then you end up, the only area of the pitch where you have any space is wide. But then there's the problem where, this is why I'm so angry at these sporting directors, because I'm like, everyone knows this. Me and Ollie just said this has been the exact same issue since Antonio Conte. Honestly, it's probably been an issue even before that. Just between that, it was decent for a little while. And obviously, we had Didier Drogba, one of the best headers potentially in history of this sport. But essentially, we've had this issue for over 7 years. So how you can build a squad that doesn't have a single aerially threatening player in the team is outrageous when you really think about it. The fact that not only is our first choice striker not that's a different story, but we don't even have anybody. The closest thing to it is probably bloody chucking Tosin up front. You know what I mean? And
I mean, we had Giroud up front for a little while, and he was kind
since
of
he left, right? And when did he leave? 2019, I guess.
Yeah, before him it would have been Morata, wouldn't it? Because he scored a few.
But remember the Giroud days? I remember so well. I can't remember who the other option striker was, but I remember under Conte 2018, we played cross after cross after cross when we didn't have Giroud on the pitch. Then we bring Giroud on, and all of a sudden we stop crossing for absolutely I will never get over that happening. I still don't have an explanation for it. But all I was trying to get to is when the opponents park the bus this deeply, it's difficult to do much other than crossing. But what annoys me is that we take the word crossing a bit too literally. That doesn't mean you always need to punt it to the far post. That doesn't mean you always need to have a high cross. Well, to be fair, we scored from a low cross with Cucurella, even though it was officially given as an own goal. I'm still not sure about that, to be honest. But why don't we do cutbacks? Why are we the only team in the world that doesn't do cutbacks? I swear, Arsenal, Liverpool, these types of teams, they score half their goals with cutbacks. I swear, I've not seen a cutback maybe all season.
We were doing it towards the start of the season. We were doing it a lot more. It's why Palmer was scoring so many goals. And we'll get onto that when we talk about Maresca, I think. But yeah, it seems now it's evaporated. Maresca seems to really have this set in stone idea about the way he wants to play, and at the moment it's not working.
No, at the moment it isn't working. But that's this thing where I'm like, football is so weird because we could have easily gone 1-0 up before conceding, to probably win this game comfortably, and we speak about the same game that had the very same game plan and speak about it completely differently. So that's why I'm always a bit hesitant to say a manager's game plan isn't working, because I'm like, well,
Yeah,
That
but I'm not
first
just
half.
looking at it over this. I'm not looking at it just over this game.
Okay,
It's
yeah. No, I hear that. And you're
since
not wrong. You're not
December,
wrong.
really.
Yeah, no, like I don't disagree with it. I just wanted to say, like, especially in the first half, it was an individual's horror show. Like,
Mm.
I know you want to speak about Kobel in a positive sense a little bit later, but for the first goal, what is he doing? What is Kutosin doing? What is Cucurella
Yeah,
doing?
that was poor.
Even for the second goal, what are they all doing? If I'm being honest, how can he be so free to get to that header? Like, how is that a thing? How are we allowing the cross to it that way? And then we had so many moments. Like, we were playing Ipswich. You'd think they're parking the bus the whole time, but we had transition moments when they played bad passes, they gave away possession, when we won the ball through Enzo or Jackson or Caicedo, and then we had transition moments. But we've ruined them every single time. The decision making, when we got anywhere near the final third, like, this is where I'm more starting to get onto Maresca, because I feel like we are so drilled into what we do when the opposition sits in their block and how we play in our 3-2-5 or our 3 diamond 5-6, whatever you want to call it, right? It feels like we're so drilled into that we have now completely forgotten how to counterattack. Like, that was our biggest strength last season. Now, as soon as we have a transition moment, they all fuck it up. And we had, on paper, other than Nkunku in terms of value, and other than Sancho in terms of how they actually play, because I think Neto is absolutely woeful at left wing. Well, we'll get to that. On paper, we had our best attack on the pitch today. And honestly, they ruined every single attack in their first half. Now, obviously, in the second half, Cucurella scored that goal and then Sancho scored that goal. But in the first half, the amount of attacks we ruined by just choosing the wrong pass or timing it a bit too late. Like when Palmer passed that to Madueke, and Madueke, first of all, nearly broke his ankle by trying to stop and then keeps the ball and then falls over, wants a penalty, but wasn't fouled. And it's just like, how on earth did we make so little out of that situation? How can you be 4-on-3 or 2, play a pass, and then your player essentially fall over because you underhit the pass? Like, it's shocking. There was a moment where Enzo Fernandez was running through. I saw Palmer steaming all the way out to the left. I saw Neto steaming all the way out to the right. I'm like, guys, you went so far wide. If Enzo fed you the ball, all you could have done is cross it back in, and that would have just given Ipswich more time to put defenders in the box, which meant we wouldn't have scored. Don't go all the way wide, man. Give Enzo an option. He had to shoot himself. It was an easy save for the keeper. It's mind-blowing, the individual horror show, in my opinion, that was today. With a few exceptions. I'm not saying every single individual, but there were so many individuals that had individual mistakes, and I'm not even saying 5 each, but each of you. Like, there wasn't even more than 3 players that were like, well, I was like, you didn't make constant errors today. And it was just, it's so frustrating to me. I'll bring up the stats, but I mean, I touched on it there. Like you said, Neto at left wing, man, shouldn't even be allowed, if I'm being honest. It shouldn't even be allowed.
That was his worst game for us, I think, since he signed for us. And he's had a few clangers.
Yeah.
I just thought he was getting quite a lot of praise recently for his effort and him putting a lot of the work in, and that's important. And and it is important to note that his work ethic has been really good as late. But at the moment, when he gets the ball, he is useless, almost worse than useless, because his crosses aren't ever reaching anybody. His dribbling isn't working as a winger. He barely ever scores, and if he does shoot it, he blazes it about a million miles over the bar or wide. He's been getting away with quite a lot, I think, and it kind of culminated today. He was the worst player on the pitch for me. He really struggled. And when Sancho came on for him, we looked. When Sancho came on, we looked so much better for having Sancho on, but I don't know. Like, I thought, it made me reevaluate the way I thought about Sancho when I saw how poor Neto was today.
Yeah, and like, for me, does it make a difference for you, Neto on the left and Neto on the right, or is this because I also thought, even though he was still not doing much towards the end after that Sancho sub that you talked about, I still thought he looked a little bit better and a little bit more dangerous and a little bit more like he had much of an idea of what he was trying to do here. When he then got swapped over to the right, like,
he just seems like he's running around like a headless chicken to me, man. To be honest with you, like, it feels like he's almost like he's playing on instinct, but he needs his brain to do it. I really not been impressed with him lately. He's getting on my wick. In fact, none of the wingers have really been impressing me lately. Sancho is probably the most. Noni, of course, coming back from injury, and we all know about Ukraine Bolt.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think that spot certainly for next season is wide open in my view. We could bring someone in, an academy player could take it. We could do whatever, like, because I think nobody's holding down maybe either of our winging spots at the moment. So
yeah, I mean the winger spots. I mean, for me, it's still if Madueke is fit and let's say on it, then I think Madueke is a good enough right winger, especially with having Esteval potentially as his backup next season. But it always depends on Madueke. Like, he might be good, he might be really bad. But yeah, for me, it does make a difference if Neto's playing on the left. I don't know. He's a very strange player because when I click on this, right, and I go on player profile, his preferred foot is his left foot. When he crosses the ball, I don't know if that changes it or what, but he seems to be good at crossing with his right and absolutely woeful at crossing with his left. Every single cross, I swear he overhit past every player in the box. And then it was usually Madueke or someone pushing up from further back, Chalobah or Enzo picking up the ball before it went out for a throw-in. Like, every single time, it was overhit. And I can't believe that keeps happening on his strong foot. Yet the best moment he had was that volley that he took that he nearly kind of curled round. I can't remember if it was just before halftime or whether it was just after the first goal by Cucurella. I'm not sure, but that was the only kind of useful moment I felt he had. But I don't know, man. Obviously, it felt like he was also almost playing the same role as Sancho as well. But I'm like, yeah, but you have different strength though. Like, when he was always sat out, like drifting wide, just sitting there. I'm like,
do you know what I found really odd about it though? Like, and this is kind of, it's going to dovetail into the conversation about Enzo Maresca, I think, because something looked really off today, and I don't know if anyone else noticed it. At least 2, 3, or 4 times, at least, I saw Pedro Neto on the right-hand side pick up the ball in the right half space, and I see Palmer on like the very edge of the box, in the center, right, or just inside the box. Sometimes almost on like the penalty spot. That should be the other way around. The best play
from open play, or did that mostly happen like after set pieces or whatever?
No, from open play. Like, I know Palmer's got his right to roam and stuff, but his best area on that pitch is the right half space. He owns that right half space, and he's never there at the moment. And it feels a little bit like, I don't know, like, is there something up tactically where Maresca for some reason is moving Palmer even further inside than he already was? And now we've got other players, because I've noticed for his whole little slump that he's been having, Palmer, in the last sort of couple of months, he's barely been getting in those positions as much.
Yeah,
and I don't know. Is he being deployed differently, and it's hurting him? I don't know.
I mean, it's a very difficult conversation. I'll bring up the kind of the real lineup that I can move around a little bit in a second, because obviously, in principle, we should have set up slightly differently today, because in recent games, in other games, we usually play with a 3-2 and then 4 behind a striker. But today was more like essentially 5, right? So that should have meant Palmer is neither on the left nor on the right, but actually centrally. But that wasn't really happening, because Cucu obviously didn't push quite as high as Enzo. It kind of became one of these a lot. And that meant Palmer was still on the left. And that meant we had this little triangle. And if you want to include Kobel into it, who's often pushed out here as well in possession, you had essentially 3, including Kobel, 4 left footers in the tiniest of areas, which just makes no sense. Like, especially when you play Neto at left wing. If you play Sancho there, at least you have 1 right footer there, right? But when Neto is there, to not have Enzo and Palmer swapped, I don't understand. But obviously, it also comes back round to the issues that further back, because we didn't play any of the right backs, which meant the fullback inverting into midfield had to be Cucurella, which meant if you're then inverting Cucurella, you can't play Enzo on the left, because you don't want Cucurella to be the right centre mid, do you? So you're already going back to kind of selection issues that become a problem by the selection a game or 2 before that. Because like it depended on what you choose last game, whether you had right back available today. But if you wanted to not have Palmer on the left, because if Cucurella,
it just feels like he's tinkering too much. I don't know. Maybe I don't know if it's something with the manager or not. I'm sure, I don't know. Do you want to talk about the manager? Do we, do we back him? Do we not? Because I don't know, man. Like I'm firmly of the opinion that if we do get rid of Maresca, we'll probably the best we can hope for is someone even younger with even less experience who's even worse.
My only hope is, and I keep not saying his name right, but that the Strasbourg manager, as much as he's young, might just be good.
Rosenior.
Yeah.
Or like Rosenior, I think is how you say it.
Yeah, I'm gonna bring it up because it's like he's called Liam, so I'm like, am I supposed to pronounce his surname French or English?
He used to be a left back for Hull, if I remember rightly.
It might well have been.
Yeah, if I remember rightly.
He kind of just looks like Matisse a little bit, doesn't he, with the glasses?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, so I don't know what's going on with do you sack him, right? And if you do, then you're starting all over again with someone else, and there's no guarantee it's going to work. But at the same time, it just isn't working at the moment. Like there just doesn't seem to be anything that's going to change it. And I'd think even if we don't get Champions League football, I think he's not going to get sacked, because they keep talking about this being like a 2-season with the new Club World Cup and everything. Like, I think they're going to stick with Maresca for at least one more season, because I think the other thing is it's going to like piss off the players if it's constant managerial rotation. I think they just want some stability as well. So like, there's a lot more going on here than like, is the football good? Is the football bad? Because let's be honest, the football's bad. And at the same time, I'm like, but how much longer can we all keep watching this shit? Because it's so boring and it's so stale. We look so toothless, and players are playing out of position and they look bored. And like, no one's expressing themselves. It's constant recycling of possession. We play in a U shape. It's boring. And like, I hate to complain about that because, at the end of the day, football's a sport. It's about winning. But we're boring and we're not winning. So like, it's the worst of both worlds. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know whether he should stay or go. I don't know about you.
Like I said earlier, I'm similar to you, where I'm like, oh no, I said this to you before we went live. So I tweeted towards the end of the game, I'm Maresca out purely for the fact that he took Nicholas Jackson off for Christopher Nkunku. And people were replying to me as if Jackson did anything useful up front, or as if Jackson provided many goals as of late. And I'm like, fair enough. But we're talking with Jackson, okay, in today's game, in the 2 games since coming back from injury. Maybe even a couple before he got injured, fair enough. But he was still always dangerous. And while I compare to that, Christopher Nkunku, pretty much every single game since Bournemouth away, he's been utterly useless. So I'm like, you're saying Jackson isn't helpful today or a couple of games. Well, Nkunku's been useless all season since Bournemouth in September. So I'm like, why on earth would I bring on Nkunku? And you could see it. As soon as that Nkunku was on for Jackson, we had nothing for the last few minutes. Absolutely nothing. And I'm not saying we would have scored with Jackson on, but there would have been some danger there. I guarantee that. There's always a threat and some danger with Jackson on. There's not with Nkunku on. And that's kind of what I'm like, now, sure, maybe Jackson was tired, and maybe the fitness, the medical staff, advised before the game that Jackson wouldn't play. Then what was it, 75, 80 minutes or whatever? Maybe they said that. But my God, man, we're in a fight for our lives, like a serious fight for our lives here, because you cannot be spending close to £2 billion, go out of the cups early, and then end up finishing 7th, which we might do. Like, again, I want to reiterate this point from the very beginning of the stream. Today's game was by far the easiest game we had left in our running. By far. We couldn't even win that. Now, sure, the Brentford draw looked a little bit better at the fact that Arsenal couldn't beat them either. They were just beating Real Madrid. But that is the difference there. Our midweek games is bloody Legia Warsaw, and games where our under-21s should be winning. Arsenal played Real Madrid in midweek. That takes a lot more focus, a lot more energy, right? That's not comparable to what we do in midweek, please, right? As for Maresca, I have so many questions, so many issues where it's like, I don't understand sticking with Palmer in the half left space. Like, even today, even though he was supposed to be centrally, he was more than half left space. And even when you make subs, he wasn't really going for a change to that. And my biggest frustration is that I just feel too much lack of accountability. But because the way our football club is nowadays run, you can't even take that too seriously, because everything we hear from the club and about the club is purely PR and media briefs. That's all it is. Maresca says what the owners need him to say, or the sport directors need him to say when he doesn't complain about something, or when he does complain about something. When he's like, I don't speak about this player because they are the player of another club and I respect that too much. And as soon as it's Liam Delap, he's like, oh yeah, he's a great player. It's like, you can always smell. You can always smell everything. Liam Delap all of a sudden on the bench today. What does that tell you? I mean, probably that he's like, not Johnny Diesel, look at how shit they are. Do you know what I mean? And I would be thinking that if I'm him. The problem is for him that it's Chelsea and Man United interested. And as bad as we are, we're still not as bad as Man United. So I guess it's something. As for, in terms of Hollywood, you said earlier, in terms of, do I think he will get sacked? I think the only scenario in which he does get sacked is if he doesn't at least qualify for the Europa League. So we either, whatever happens in the league, but we win the Conference League and therefore make Europa League, or if we somehow bottle the Conference League but come 6th and therefore play Europa League. I think if he plays Europa League, he will stay. If he doesn't achieve at least that, one way or another, as we have 2 paths to it, then I think he will get sacked. But like I say, I don't think it will necessarily get better. Like you said, I very much think that a lot of the players, especially the high-profile ones, your Enzo Fernandez's, your Moises Caicedo's, your Cole Palmer's, those kind of, Levi Colwill has interest from Liverpool, those types of players, Cucurella maybe as well. They will want a little bit of stability because these guys understand, and they've been, well, some of them have not been in football for long enough, mind you, but some of them have been in football for long enough to understand that constant change does not breed success anywhere. Now, I know Arne Slot has obviously done incredible things with Liverpool this season, but he's taken over a well-oiled running machine. And Jurgen Klopp played a huge part and a huge role in making that squad be takeoverable, making up a new word, for a new manager. You've seen it with Pep. Now, obviously, it's starting to fall apart a little bit, but you could see the clubs that were being successful, that are being successful, are the clubs that have sustained with the same personnel. And we are not doing that. We have not done that under the old regime. We are not doing that under the new regime. And under the old regime, the way we were running things, it made us always be a candidate for trophies, for a cup, whether it was a European Cup, whether it was a domestic cup. Okay, we lost a lot of finals, I know, but we made all those finals. We got unlucky on many of them. We could have won a lot more of these one-off trophies. But realistically, the way we were being run beforehand was also already not leaving us in a position to fight for the league anymore. Because the way football changed. The way we used to do it worked. Real Madrid used to do a lot of that, changing managers regularly. And it used to work for us until Antonio Conte, even until Sarri, if you will, because we won that league title. The Europa League title, of course. But it just felt like then football took a bit of a change, and what worked was sticking with a guy. Now, of course, you had to have the right guy to stick to, and that if you're like you realize we hired the wrong guy, and then you're like, maybe we shouldn't, bank on him, and maybe we should get somebody else. And I get people saying that, there's no point in not constantly sacking managers. I think someone said it in the chat a few minutes ago. Let me see. Yeah, Brader said it. We can't keep sacking managers. Yes, we can if we keep hiring people who aren't good enough. And that's obviously the problem. But the problem is, how do you find out? And this is why I personally still want Maresca to get a second season. And if it's still bad by September, October, maybe he has to go. But we haven't even seen a manager get the beginning of a second season. Okay, like since Tuchel, right? Obviously, Tuchel got the beginning of a third. But did we not all prefer that? You know what I mean? Like, there's no point giving a manager each a season. Then I'd rather sack them during the season. Because, like, even going back to Poch, I still think that whole Poch season would have been better had we just brought him in earlier and just paid off PSG's gardening leave, which is the reason why we didn't get him earlier, because we didn't want to pay money. Because then he only met all the squad in pre-season. And obviously delays all the processes that happens. And I don't know if these sport directors and owners underestimate that part of the game, that relationships matter so much. And you could even see today in the first half, as having Noni, having Jackson, having Palmer, having Enzo Fernandez, having players that now know each other for a couple of years makes a difference. And you could see that Neto almost felt like the foreign object to the team. And while when you see it in midweek, we often look like foreign objects to each other because they don't know each other. They don't know the staff. We've changed all the backroom staff. Like, other than Billy, the physio or the masseuse, there's barely anyone around that's still the same person as it was in 2022. Now 2022. And you can argue, well, none of the players are, so what difference does it make to them whether they don't know all the people around it? Fair enough. But we've also changed the medical staff 3 times, like the whole medical team. We've changed it 3 times since these new owners took over. And we're still nowhere. I mean, to be fair, this season was a bit better, but we still had this period of 2 months where we had all the important players injured at the same time. And I know I'm talking myself into a rage, and maybe I'm like, talking in circles a little bit, and I'm not really getting to the point. But like I say, I'd still rather stick to the manager for a little bit longer. But partly because of the basis that I don't trust these people to get someone better. If you told me now, we would try to get an elite manager if we sack Maresca now, I would say we can think about it. But 2 questions. Number 1, which elite manager would take us? Experience has shown us that Luis Enrique said no very, very quickly when we approached him. Hansi Flick, I'm not sure if it was a full his side no or our side no as well. And then who do you have available? Yeah, Allegri. I mean, is that really who you think we should be going for? Like, I think that's football that's outdated. I don't think that works anymore.
There's just not that many good candidates, and that's part of the problem. I mean, it feels a little bit like there are no, or almost none of those kind of superstar managers. People will talk about Ancelotti, and I've been saying about him for a lot of the season as well, but he's doing a really poor job at Real Madrid right now. Like, he's really struggling, and he might be out the door soon. That might be better for us because it might be better anyway. But it doesn't feel like there's any, there's no, definite, you have to get this guy. He's the one, because if, there's no one else on this guy's level. And maybe that's the case now where there isn't. And so you have to give managers a bit of a go. I would wager you probably can't go as young and as inexperienced as we've gone, but it's not us making the decision, is it?
No, it isn't. And like Karan said, I'm not bringing it up because I want to talk about what Muli said. But Karan said if they sack Maresca, they would probably go for the Ipswich manager. Excuse me. Yeah, they might do because they tried to get him last year. And take my word for it or not, as far as I know, McKenna was actually higher on our list than Maresca was last year. Make of that what you will. But Muli says, and put a quote by Maresca. I haven't seen this anywhere else. I don't know whether Pys is busy or Twitter is bugging or what's happening. But Maresca said, I think we lost confidence because we conceded from the environment.
I saw this, yeah.
Our goalkeeper plays short and then he goes long for the second goal because of the environment, the fans. Now, we had Darmesh, a mate of ours. Some of you will have seen him on the channel before. He was at the game and he was texting us throughout the game saying, Matthew Arden is booing Sanchez after Sanchez told the Matthew Arden to calm down, essentially. I think that was after the first goal, and then he was constantly getting booed and abused essentially every time he touched the ball. And Maresca saying he played it long. Honestly, I can't remember Sanchez playing it long in that moment. If Maresca was true to his word, he would now not play Sanchez anymore because he always told us when you play it long when you shouldn't, you're getting subbed off. Well, he didn't sub him off, so that's a bit, bad leadership again from the manager, if I'm being honest, or not sticking to your words. But yeah. Now, you can blame this. You can have a go at this from Maresca, and you can say, how dare he blame the fans? But he's 100% spot on. Now, that doesn't take away criticism from Maresca, and that doesn't take away criticism from the team. But Chelsea Football Club fans have not understood the concept of when the team is struggling, you need to help them to make them win. When they are struggling, for you to shit on them, abuse them, boo them, is not going to make them win. Back in the day, when once in a blue moon, you had to boo a halftime performance by Lampard, Terry and Drogba, once in a blue moon, yeah, that might get a reaction and that might make them try hard in the second half. When you do it on a 2-weekly basis, booing them at halftime, that doesn't get a positive reaction out of the team. You need to fucking support them. This is not blaming for the result, but this is a simple fact that Chelsea, as soon as we conceded, there was not a single loud voice in that stadium that wasn't an Ipswich fan. And again, I want to ask you, I know I'm not there, so I'm not in the best position to necessarily criticize or demand things like that. But going to my local team, when we're losing, you sing harder to make them play better. You don't shut up. And I know this is big club problems, and I know this is because we have the expectation to win. We have the expectation to at least make top 4. That is the very minimum with Chelsea. I get it. But if you want the team to win, you need to stop doing this. Because it's genuinely a thing. Whether you think it's right that the manager wants to play it long or not, or doesn't want to play it long, it's kind of irrelevant. It doesn't really matter.
Well, all other things being equal, fan sentiment, we know makes a difference because the players say it does. Exactly. The players say
they literally said earlier this season they prefer playing away.
Yeah, Caicedo said that last season. Colwill after we won against, I think it was after we won against Spurs. I think.
I don't know what happened now because now we haven't won away since that Spurs game, and until today, won 5 home games in a row.
Interestingly, he said Colwill. He said something like the atmosphere was really good, and we really needed that, and it helped spur us on to the win. So all things being equal in elite sport, yeah, it might make a 1% or 2% difference, and yeah, the football is boring, but I think we have to suck it up and and try and support the team to get them through it. Like, because at the end of the day, we're probably not going to be helping them any more. Like if we're booing and stuff, and it's just people venting their frustration, isn't it? They don't like the way that we're doing things as a club. They don't like the a lot, some of the players. They don't like the transfer strategy. They don't like the manager. They don't like his tactics and style of play. So there's probably a lot to it, but
100%.
But like, people have a right to boo. Like, at the end of the day, they spend their money on their tickets.
Absolutely. But I am of the opinion, if you're not like if you go to a Chelsea game and you're not a tourist or a fan of someone else, somehow getting a ticket when you shouldn't, you are a supporter. If you are not a supporter, don't go to the game. Don't spend your hard-earned money. If you want to spend your hard-earned money on entertainment, go to the cinema or the theater. If you want to just be passionate about something you support, no matter the result, then go to football. Like, I just absolutely hate this idea that when you spend your money, you're allowed to do whatever the fuck you want. No, you're not. Like, do you think if you buy a beer in a bar, you're allowed to smash the whole place? No, you're not. Like, no, that's not how it works. You spend money, you can do whatever you want. No, you can't. Be loud. Help the team, man. Why do you think all these people always talk about Anfield makes a difference? Especially in Europe. And I know they got knocked out this year. But why do you think they say that? Why do you think we never win Newcastle away? Why do you think that is? You think about it. You know what I mean? Why do you think Dortmund have such a better home record than away record? Think about it. You know what I mean? Like, it's, I don't know. Like, again, I'm not saying this is the reason for everything, but I'm saying taking people completely out of it also doesn't help. But Maresca isn't helping himself either. Like, as much as I agree with him, does it help you having a go at the fans for conceding? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and in a sense, it comes across a little bit excusey as well. He's like, oh no, like it wasn't my poor tactics or my my inability to manage a game properly, or me backing this goalkeeper who's absolutely useless for the whole season, even though we have better ones available. Like, instead he's like, oh no, it's the fans' fault. Like, he's absolving himself of any of the blame, and that irritates me, and I think that might irritate other people.
Yeah, no, fair enough. And honestly, I'm less so speaking about the booing at halftime. Like, I don't think that's particularly helpful either, but I don't think that's necessarily an issue. But I think it's more like the groaning during the games and the having a go at players going back during a game. I'm like, just pay attention a little bit. You know what I mean? No, that's fair. But we started this game all right. And we had a couple of chances and we hit the post. And then out of nowhere, they score. It's not like we were absolutely diabolical and they deserved to score. They had 5 chances, one after the other. And that's where I'm annoyed. Like, if we get played off the park by Ipswich, I have no, like, as much as I say you should be there to support, I have no issue with people being angry and upset. But when you see your team doing okay, missing a couple of chances, then conceding a bit unluckily on the first chance that the opposition has, to then be instantly super quiet, I think it's poor. From 2-0, I get it.
It says more about you, doesn't it? Like if you go to the stadium, right, you pay your hard-earned money for your ticket, and then you sit there for 90 minutes with your arms folded and not doing anything. It says more about you than it does about anything else, I think.
Yeah. But honestly, even the arms folded, I'd rather than having a go at the players. At the same time, maybe not, because at least, having a go at the players makes some sort of noise. Yeah. It's a tricky one. Maresca isn't helping himself in many, many ways. I am absolutely in agreement with that. And the problem is for him, for people that don't think he should be sacked, is obviously 2 months ago or a month ago, before the international break, he had the excuse of injuries. We didn't have Palmer, we didn't have Jackson, we didn't have Madueke, but he did have all of them today. And like I touched on, especially in the first half, the attacking was so bad. It's wild. It really is poor. It really is poor.
The problem is you can't help but not say it's partially the manager, because you look at what some of these players were able to achieve last season. And no, it wasn't perfect under Pochettino. Nobody really wants to go back to Pochettino, and nor should we. But there were moments, certainly in the season, where certain players have been playing much better than they are playing now. And you've got to ask the question, is it the style of play? Is it that they are just bored? Are they not as motivated for him as they were for someone like Poch, who made them run hard, was like a father figure to him, and this guy's just like a stepdad? I don't know. But it just feels something about this season, and it feels like something about this manager makes it so the players are playing worse, and I can't prove it, but it does feel like that at the moment.
It does, but doesn't it end up feeling like that under every manager we have? Did you not feel that under Poch until the end of the last run? Oh, sorry, the beginning of the last run when we lost 4-0 at Arsenal. Did you not feel that?
You always feel it under bad managers, I guess. But like,
but can every manager just be bad? I mean, I guess they can. The ones we hire, I guess they can.
I don't remember feeling that way about Tuchel personally.
No, but it was also not working towards the end. Like, let's be honest, it was also not. We were in points per games wise. We were not much better than we are now. In terms of we were scraping fourth in that last season, or third.
But at the end of the day, what people do for you, it's like a "what have you done for me lately" sort of thing. And Maresca has not done anything for us lately. Yeah, granted, it's still early days. Like we're talking season 1, right, of his 5-year deal or whatever, which he's never seeing out all the way, by the way. Yeah. They're talking about the Club World Cup, and so it's a 2-season season. Are they going to give him the next one and just be like, listen, it wasn't up to our standards, but do better this time, or we're turfing you out? I don't know.
It might well be, but by the way, what we're seeing now, the reaction from fans, the reaction from everyone, is exactly why, as much as I didn't like Poch, said when we sacked Poch, I think it's stupid to sack Poch because he had a good end to the season. He got things to work. He got seemingly a good relationship with most of the players, but because the club were too adamant to sell Conor Gallagher and Poch weren't having it, that didn't happen either. And I'm not saying we would have been amazing on the Poch, but I'm saying we are not out of the transition period, and it would have been better to still have Poch to blame than it would be to have to scapegoat another manager, because same we would have got Maresca now this upcoming summer rather than last summer. He would have had another season in the Premier League with Leicester. He would have had 1 season in the Premier League with Leicester. Yeah, he would have gotten relegated, but he would have gotten some Premier League experience, which I'm sure would have been helpful for him actually coming into the Premier League. And first, maybe it wouldn't have been good enough next season either, but it wouldn't have scapegoated 2 people, 3 people, if you will, if you include Potter in that equation, for the same transition period. A transition period created by the way that owners try to completely turn over the football club in the space of a year and a half.
But also, because they have this insane obsession with the style of play. That they want the team to have an identity, and they, and that's not a bad thing, but and they want us to play attractive football. And this is the thing, part of the issue, and maybe it's part of the bigger cultural question at large with Chelsea, between the schism between the fans and the owners, is that Chelsea fans have never wanted to play good football, never, genuinely.
I disagree with that.
No, we haven't, because every time good
football.
No, yeah, that's fair. But every time that we tried, it went to shit. We had Andre Villas-Boas, and it went to shit until we got rid of him. Right? He did possession football. Scolari was possession football. He fell out with Drogba. That didn't work. Then we went with Sarri, probably the most successful possession-based manager we had to a degree. Maybe Scolari, I don't know. But but people still had an issue with that, and now we're doing it again with Maresca. Like the fans don't like this style of football. They've never really tolerated it. Like, I just don't understand why somebody looked at. Well, the reality is somebody probably looked at the data and went, "Oh, well, on the data it says this," but then the data doesn't account for like loads of stuff and how people feel, and I don't know. It just feels like they want to make everything that we always were not that, and and maybe that's maybe a more of a broad bugbear that I have for the owners specifically. But like, I don't understand, like, why did we have to have a possession-based manager and do this kind of style of play? Like, it's that because that's what they think is attractive, is like a good brand for football, or is they think that's going to be successful, or what? Because if they looked at the history and they knew the club at all, they'd know that's not how we play, and it's never been how we play. So why are they trying to reinvent the wheel? I don't know.
But by that logic, does that mean England should still be playing the same football they won the World Cup with in 1966?
No, I get it. Like, things to have to evolve and change over time. I understand, but there's almost like, look at someone like Newcastle, right? No matter who the manager is, Newcastle have a way that they play. They're big and they're physical, and they try and win the set pieces, and they try and battle and win the midfield. Like, these aren't like crazy concepts to have. And if they need to sit back, and have someone come at them and hit them on the counter, they'll do it. Like that. And you look at something like that, and then you go, okay, so what are the things that you would associate most with Chelsea? And like, it's defensive solidity, sometimes playing three at the back. It's ugly 1-0 wins, winning at all costs, keeping clean sheets, things like that. And it just doesn't feel like we're anywhere near that at the moment. Sure, we're playing three at the back, and sure, we're not conceding as many goals as last season, but I'm just not seeing the Chelsea I know. And on the pitch, maybe it'll get there, And there were points earlier in the season I thought we were already there because of how well we were playing. But
yeah,
do you know the other thing is the whole thing just needs to speed the fuck up? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, and I think maybe it's a teething issue with the players still getting to know the system and stuff, because we're starting to pop the ball around quite quickly when people get into the right positions, and you can see it. You can see the little patterns and triangles and stuff that they want to try and make. If they end up doing that, they'll be able to pass it all over the place, and like very tiki-taka, very sort of sorry ball, and that's fine. But it needs to be like 15-20% faster to even start moving teams around like that, to pick them apart and pull them apart. Maybe that's part of the reason at the moment that we're just not seeing the results. We're just not moving the ball quick enough. We just don't have the urgency because people don't know where to stand. They don't know where to be. They're just not 100% sure on it. Is it just it takes more time and we just have to suffer? Like, maybe it is. Do we want to reset again? Maybe not. It's hard.
It's really difficult. That whole conversation is such a broad conversation, because it's like you're taking into account, like you said, almost the history of the club, or at least the recent successful history of the club. But you're also trying to kind of balance it out with, the way football is moving. And I said this previously, where I'm like, I'm just a little bit scared that we decided to make this change seriously, like you touched on. We did try to on a couple of occasions under the old regime, but then we seem to try to take this step seriously now under this ownership, when this football is kind of starting to not be the one anymore. I'm not saying that for 1,000%, but that's what it feels to me. But there's many reasons. I feel like the reason why fans in stadiums aren't as loud anymore is there's a big difference. Like you mentioned Newcastle. I think Newcastle and places like Liverpool, they have incredible identification by the crowd with the team and the stadium and the football club. I think being an international football club like we are, being in London, therefore having a lot of touristy fans, therefore having a lot of tourists in the ground, because London is easy to reach for tourists. Less tourists, there's got to be tourists in Newcastle, but there's less tourists in Newcastle than there is in London. So obviously there's going to be less tourists at games. Whether Newcastle would allow that to happen or not is a different conversation, but they don't even have the same kind of problem.
I don't have any problems with the tourists coming in. It's just like you have to support the team, for 90 minutes.
But when I mean tourists, I don't mean like if I came over and went to a game. I mean
you're talking about yourself, Loz. You would be a tourist.
No. But when I talk about touristy fans, I talk about fans that I've seen myself at Stamford Bridge. There was like a random few Germans stood behind me who obviously understood me speaking German, and they were like, "Who's the guy playing right back?" I'm like, "That's the problem. You don't even know. You're not a fan of this team. You're just coming to London on a city trip, and you're like, let's go watch a Premier League game." You know what I mean? That's the problem.
But the problem, I suppose the question is like, people have to get into the sport somehow. Some people get into it at home, but some people, do you know what I mean? Like,
but it's more what I'm trying to get at is more this, so only clubs where there's this true and real city identification from the people to the club are where the atmosphere is still holding up. Everywhere else in football, the atmosphere is falling apart. Everywhere else in football, the atmosphere is falling apart. Even clubs like Bayern Munich, unless they have a big game, people moan about the atmosphere. In Italy, for the last 15 years, barely any stadiums have ever been sold out. Like, they have the ultras, but no one else turns up and makes any noise other than for the big games. And I just think it's a whole...
Why is Maresca blaming the fans for it then? If it's it's not the fans then, is it? It's the way football is moving. It's modern football culture. It's the stadium. It's like but it's not the fans necessarily.
Yeah, no,
situation.
That's fair. But as a last bit on this, I just want to say that I think football just isn't what football was anymore. And I think the reason that we are still invested into football the way we are has the reasons that of what it means to society, what it meant to us growing up, and a lot of nostalgia as well. I think if all of us weren't football fans before and we started watching Chelsea games, there's no way we'd become a fan of this. Not the football club and not the sport. There's no way. But because we all are, because we grew up this way. And I just think this issue, that means that you need, more so than ever, the team to create the excitement. And that's where your point from before comes in my opinion, in terms of history of the club, where it's like, Liverpool do this a bit to an extent. Like, even under the Klopp days, even now on the slot, they play a little bit more like that. But is that they can play like that because their fans push the team in those moments, while our fans would sit there and wait for the team to do it? I don't know. I truly don't know. But what I do know is that I didn't feel last season when we played chaos and transitional football that would get us to win the league one day. But the thing is, I don't feel it now either. So I'm like, I don't really know. Are we a situation like Man United where no matter what you do, no matter what manager you bring in, no matter what players you sign, the background is the problem and not really who you put on the sidelines, who you put on the pitch? There's bigger problems than that. Maybe it is that. I truly don't know anymore. I truly don't know. Yeah, I mean, Amanda says if these players can't take booing, then maybe they should play better. Sure, but
I don't know. Do you feel like
not winning, maybe they shouldn't go to football games? You know, there's that very same rhetoric.
But it's like, okay, Armando, in your job, like, would you like, what if the person who paid your wages came up and booed you for doing a bad job? Do you think you would be more or less motivated to do your job?
But not even the person paying your wages. The person stood outside the shop window.
Yeah, who kind of inadvertently pays your wages.
I mean, I suppose, but we always talk about how we have two smaller stadiums, so for us, they don't. Maybe it's bad the fans pay the wages. We don't have enough people in the stadium.
What I'm getting at is, it's just like, I don't know. It feels like, it's just a difficult one, man. Like, people are people at the end of the day, and they're going to react in a human way to stuff. And you only get a few of those real killers who use it as motivation and just and drive on to greatness. Yeah, maybe they are crumble under pressure, FC. Maybe they need more of a backbone, more leadership. But I don't know. I'm not sure booing them is really the answer. Although I really do want to boo them sometimes, so I do understand.
Absolutely, no, it's true. It's true. But and Max, this is valid to an extent, but things need to work in tandem. When Liverpool were terrible for that time, they weren't spending 2 billion in 3 years, right? And they weren't they also won the Champions League in this period. That doesn't take away from the fact that the fans identified with the club. Yes, they were not successful, but if anything, that proves the point that they didn't lose the atmosphere. Maybe they were a bit more toxic, but no one was stopping talking about the Anfield factor in that period, were they? No one has spoken about Stamford Bridge being a fortress since Jose Mourinho made it one. You know what I mean? And that was Jose doing it, not the fans. But, Ollie, one of the other things that you wanted to touch on, as we spent a lot of time speaking about Maresca and not really come to a conclusion. The worst thing is that we had Cole Palmer on the pitch and he wasn't even the best Palmer on the pitch. I mean, that's annoying, isn't it? But you wanted to speak about the defense. And the defense today, where do you stand on it? What did you make of the defense? Because we had kept, only conceded 1 goal in 5 and kept 4 clean sheets in 5 games or whatever?
Yeah, something like that. But doesn't that include one of the games against Copenhagen and I don't know. Anyway, but it's so my points on the defending are kind of 2 points. The first one is that actually I thought Colwill was pretty good. I don't think he was more than pretty good, but he was pretty good. Do you know what I noticed most about him is that usually he is the one who sits back and allows a more aggressive centre back to step up and take the ball. But he was doing that a lot today. He was more in that role of aggressively getting forward, taking the ball, and then passing it around. So it's just interesting to see him do that because it's not something I'd noticed very often. And I thought he had a good game. Other than that, won a lot of his duels, I think. Was pretty safe on the ball. I don't know. I thought in a defense that looked really lost at times, he did not look lost. But in the defense generally, it's just mistake after mistake after mistake at the moment. Like, whether it's the absolutely inept goalkeeper who inspires nothing but fear in his entire back line, then whenever he's got the ball, like if it's Cucurella, who, for all intents and purposes, has been one of our best players this season, runs around a lot, really gets stuck in. But defensively, he is a little bit lax. He does get stood up quite often. You can go past him. Someone like Tosin has his moments as well. Like, even in the game today, I mean, as much as Colwell I thought was pretty good, the main mistake I thought him and Tosin made together was somehow letting Enciso ghost between them, for their goal. Tosin for me was really, I wasn't impressed with the way he moved the ball today. I don't know. You're supposed to be the leader in this team as like the oldest person there, so lead them, do it. And then you've got Chalobah on the right, who, when he is actually defending wide, he gets cooked quite a lot. He's not the best wide defender, but I don't know. Like, we're de-thawing him for like the 4th season in a row to come save our season. I'm not going to hold too much against him.
No.
Like just in general, the defending I thought was just meh. We gave him too much space. We gave him too much credit. When they did attack, I don't know. It felt like a lot like we didn't take the game seriously today, and the defense is where I felt that the most.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we spoke about it. Liam Delap didn't start. I saw a few people say on Twitter, like, our defenders saw Delap isn't playing and then almost took their foot off the gas. I don't know. I don't know if that's what happened. It's on Colwell. Yeah, I agree that he was good, other than the defending on the first goal. But the person, in terms of if I question individual errors, it's probably mostly Cucurella, if I'm being honest. I don't understand how he even let the guy cross for the first goal, if I'm being honest. He was right there. Obviously, it's a bit unlucky and he kind of gets it through Cucurella's legs. Sure, it's unlucky, it happens, but it just shouldn't happen in that moment.
I mean, he chased him back half the pitch as well. Like, you got to get there.
Yeah, no, he was there. That's the thing. He was there. Like, he was even ahead of the guy as the guy was running at his own through ball, right? Or at the through ball that was played to him. I can't remember who the guy was there that crossed the ball. Must have been Johnson, considering he got the assist. So I presume it was him. And then he just kind of, I don't know, mistimed it. I have no idea. But the second one as well, when he doesn't get, it's just. Johnson just wins it. Now, Johnson is a bigger guy than Cucurella, absolutely, but I don't know. It just needs to be better. The defensive shape just needs to be better. As soon as any cross goes to the far post, we are absolutely just shaking. And that has been the case all season. Frankly, that has been the case since last season. Frankly, it's been the case since the season before. Since we signed all these new players, we haven't been able to defend a cross to the far post, which is disappointing and frustrating. But what can you do? What can you do? I don't know, man. It's one of those games, right, where
you can't be like super angry and really irritated and upset about everything, like,
because they had like 2 or 3 moments.
Yeah,
like three big chances supposedly. I mean, I know we only had 4, but if I go to the overall bit and you look at the momentum, like, they had 3 moments of momentum, scored twice, and whenever you look at such a performance graph, you basically never see it this clear. I've almost never seen it this heavily on one side. Never. So it's almost harsh to pick at the defense, but this is the problem when you are a team like we are. We're not very good at the front, and we're not seasoned enough to make sure it's stable at the back consistently. Like, we'll have a few games where it works, like we just had, but then we'll have games where we need the defense to be there. And then they're just not, we needed them to be there because we played all right in the first half. I think the goal would have come, personally. I mean, it did come, obviously, from 2-0 down eventually, but I think the goal would have come. We just needed to keep it at 0-0 until then. And then you needed to keep it at 1-0 until the 2-0, and then you're fine, then you're flying. And that's a defense's job, and they weren't doing that job. So it's difficult. Why do we have centre-backs defending our wide areas? Colwell last 2 years, and Disasi Chalobah this year. Now, football. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's Nathan Ake defending wide areas for Man City. It's whoever does it on the right for them. I think sometimes Akanji does it on that side. You know how Saliba does it on the left, and whoever the defender is that Arsenal play for the right sometimes. It's unfortunately how football has developed. You can think it's good, you can think it's bad. It has its logic. Is it a good thing? Maybe, maybe not. But the problem is the way oppositions, like, if we played the way we always play, I think people would moan even more at us being bad at breaking teams down. If we just played a right back and a left back and 2 centre backs and then 2 holding mids, that would just mean we'd have less attackers or players trying to attack than we do right now. People then want to have the overlapping fullbacks. Okay. But then you're going back into the issues that we often had when we had Jorginho in midfield, where it's like, okay, we attack with too many players and then we get overrun because we don't have enough players back or not the right players. Now with Caicedo, it's easier. But if you have Caicedo in front of 2, then you're still going to run into problems. Like Caicedo still now has the problem that when we are opening up to beat a press and then we lose the ball, that Caicedo has to defend a space of at least 30 meters in radius on his own, and he can't do it. It's physically impossible for anyone to do that. But I can't sit here and say, but it's beneficial on the other side. Is it? I mean, we compared the first half, we had 1.03 XG. In the second half, we had 1.11. Honestly, it didn't feel that similar, if I'm being honest, but obviously we did hit that post in the first half and stuff. Oh my God. It's just...
I don't know, man. Do you know what the thing is this whole game today has just made me think like, oh, what, like, where are we going from here? Like, are we even going anywhere? Like I said in our group chat and things yesterday, like I didn't see the response when Forest dropped points before the Brentford game, so I didn't really expect to see any extra effort in that same way in this game. And I kind of think I was proven right about that in the end, but I mean,
in terms of effort, you were proven right, absolutely.
But what I meant really by that is like I don't think Forest slipping up changes the way that we were going to go about doing things.
I agree with that. If when we talk about it in the group chat, I might not have seen that's what you were trying to say because I do.
It's difficult, but it's.
But I still, I don't know. I know you said this a few times now, but I still don't feel after this game that we didn't try hard enough. Like, I don't know, man. It just needed a ball to go in and their ball not to go in, and that's all it kind of needed.
There were definitely moments where we did try to. I think it's probably not fair to say that we didn't try today because I think we did. But
maybe it was just some players tried and some didn't. Maybe.
Brentford really felt like we didn't try.
I agree with that from the get-go. The lineup, the selection, and the players noticed that. Okay, we're resting all our players. Clearly, it's not that difficult or not that important. And that's what people in the chat said earlier, the manager's mentality. And even going back to when he said we're not ready to win the league, I still think that's what partly derailed our season. Now, obviously, the injuries after that, but I still think that's where it all started. And I criticized it at the time. Too many people were defending it at the time. Now, all of a sudden, everybody's criticizing it. And I'm here trying to defend Maresca because I'm like, we won't get any better if we sack him.
Yeah.
And I just think it's just a revolving door, a revolving cycle of doom if we keep doing the same thing.
The point is what I was getting at is like, where are we going at the moment, like this season? Because like it feels like 2 weekends in a row now we've had an opportunity. We could have gained 5 points in total of 4 points, ish. 4 points on what we were on at the moment if we had won instead of drawn, right? And it just feels like a missed opportunity. We had like the opportunity to maybe snatch third, to maybe be looking up at the table. Now we're looking behind us. Well, if we're looking up at the table, it's because there are teams ahead of us and we need to leapfrog them. It feels like we're getting these good opportunities because the league this season has been, I don't know whether you want to say it's been good or it's been poor, but it's been very competitive for one of those two reasons. And you end up in a situation where with just throwing these opportunities away, and if we don't get Champions League as a result of that, and I think, to be honest, after this game, I don't think we do. It's because we don't deserve it, and it feels like a little bit like we had such a promising season and it's just kind of petering out to nothing a little bit. The Conference League will be fun, like we will probably win that, let's hope, but it's the third season in a row in the league of just like petering out into mid-table and not really getting any, like making any progress.
It's weird. Last season was obviously different in the sense that we were terrible from the get-go until about March. Then we started to become good, except losing 5-0 to Arsenal. But honestly, for a fan, it feels better to have the season like last season rather than starting well and being shit since December. Now, there's obviously still a few games left to theoretically have an amazing end to the season, but it just doesn't feel like it's coming, is it? And like I said, the easiest game was today. Now, obviously, ignore Conference League on Thursday and then obviously semi-final and potential final after that. But Fulham away, much more difficult than Ipswich. They just beat Liverpool last week. Everton at home. Now, Speed absolutely winnable, but still more difficult than Ipswich is. Liverpool at home.
They just beat Arsenal, didn't they? Or drew with Arsenal? I can't remember. Everton did.
Everton did. Everton, they. I can't
It was a draw, wasn't it? It was a late controversial penalty or something.
But was that last week or when was that?
I can't remember how. I thought it was like the last game they played, but they won the last game.
They won something yesterday, last minute, I think, against Forest.
Forest.
The week before they played 1-1 against Arsenal. Yeah,
that's what I was looking at. Yeah, it was a controversial penalty. Like
controversial penalty, but not at the end. I get.
It was they're no slouches either. Everton will not be an easy game for us to play.
Exactly, which is part of the issue. And then we've got Liverpool at home. If things go badly, we might even have to give them a guard of honour. So that's going to be nice.
Absolutely no chance we win that. Honestly, if the league's already shown up is our best option, but I think we still lose that.
Yeah, no, I think I wouldn't be surprised at all if a draw comes out of it, to be honest. But that we don't win it. Newcastle away, you might as well just wave a white flag and stay at home. There's no point even going. United at home, I mean, they are so bad. We might actually win that, but
we never beat them. I honestly, we never
did beat them last year at home. Remember 4-3, but
whatever. But
otherwise, we never do.
Yeah, it feels like we never do. Forest, I actually do think we can win that game.
Yeah.
There's
It all depends on what's still to play for, in my opinion. If Forest need the win to get Champions League, I think they'll bottle it. If Forest already have it, I think they might be so on the party we might win.
I think for us, that generally, I think we have to win every game that we would be expected to win now. That probably includes Fulham and Everton, maybe Man United as well. And we probably have to take points off Newcastle if we want Champions League. I think that's kind of like it's quite a tall mountain to climb now. It's not going to be.
It's not going to happen, is it? It's not looking.
Not unless Man City or Newcastle mess something up. And at the moment, Newcastle are absolutely flying, and Man City, even though they have their drawbacks, they don't really seem like they're going to be dropping off either. So,
no, I mean, unlike us, they managed to turn around being 2-0 down at home yesterday against a much better team than we played.
Yep. So yeah, I dread to think what Palace would do to us right now. Let's put it that way.
I mean, probably play 1-1 or something, or beat us 1-0 or something stupid. Because I don't know, like we're just all over the place. We don't really do enough going forward. We don't really do enough going backwards. But
we don't have anything intangible. We don't really have coaching. Yeah, like we're just sort of in the middle of this stuff at the moment. We're really all, like we're just kind of in the middle of everything. We're like jack of all trades, master of none. We don't specialize in anything. Like nobody, maybe outside of like Palmer.
We specialize in not counterattacking because we're shit at that now.
yeah, and exactly what Maresca wanted. So
when he doesn't want to play it quick and everything. Just give me some balance. That's all I want. A manager that can
really
do
much
that.
To say, isn't it?
Exactly. Just like
it's just a bit
do
shit.
Possession football, no problem. But on days where it's not the thing that works, do something different. Have a different idea, and that's what I find extremely frustrating when managers don't have that and don't do that.
Yeah. Well, at the moment it's do plan A, and if plan A doesn't work, do plan A better. So what we got.
And I mean that was kind of the thing on the Sarri back in the day as well. Then I did say, well, there's no point trying to learn a plan B when you've not even perfected or remotely perfected plan A. But I felt a plan A be a lot more clear under Sarri than I feel it is now. Like which shape we play in, that's clear. But what is supposed to happen within this shape, I think that is very not clear. Because so many of our chances are created by pressing, but then we are absolutely shit at using quick transitions. And it feels like we've never trained them all season. So it feels like even half of the principle doesn't make any sense. You try to make chances by winning the ball high up, but then we're so bad at playing that out that the only way we really look dangerous is, as stupid as it sounds, because we struggle against the low blocks, but the only way we really look dangerous is when we actually it takes us too long to make it happen, but when we do carve a team open, that's when it looks best. Like, for example, that one Madueke cross in the first half to Colwell, where Colwell could have easily scored, but headed it too centrally and the keeper made a comfortable save. That's a worldy cross, and that's the thing that opens up a defense like that. But you're not going to have 17 of those crosses in the game. You're going to have 2 maximum, especially with the team that we are. And then if you just don't take your chances, you just need to do... Like, I don't understand why it's so difficult as a squad to understand. For me, it's so simple. You either need a guaranteed goal threat, whether that's someone like a Salah who guarantees you goals from a wide area, or a striker that guarantees you goals from up front, or you need a defense that guarantees you clean sheets every week. One of the two is necessary. And then you can do the rest in experience. Like, look at Barcelona. Look at how young that team is, other than Lewandowski. Okay, they've got Szczesny in goal now, and they've still got Frankie de Jong playing. But everybody else is so young in that team. But they've got those few pieces of experienced quality. We don't have that. And that's why we are not having the trajectory that PSG have and the Barcelona have, in my opinion. PSG are also doing the young player thing, but they're keeping players like Marquinhos around. They're keeping players around to keep everything ticking, and they keep they just make it work, and we just don't. And honestly, I'm getting extremely tired of it. I'm getting extremely tired of it. I mean, hey, at least we're back into the Conference League to, make ourselves feel a bit better on Thursday, so that's nice.
Yeah, do you know what? I'm that makes me so happy.
Yeah. I mean, we will be happy about it if we lift the trophy at the end, but that will be our copium until I don't know, for the next 3 years we won the trophy in Europe.
yeah, we've won every trophy. We've done it.
We've won it all. That'll be the whole banner, the first game back at the beginning of next season, everything.
It's actually embarrassing, isn't it? Like, a little bit.
Yeah. We're barely better than West Ham. Let's make sure we're at least as good as West Ham and win the Conference League. Do you know what I mean? But Ollie, I think it's about time we wrap this one up. We've gone through a lot of this game. We've tried to... You see, it's difficult. There's no... I mean, some people might have a clear, definitive answer, definitive opinion on things like the manager. I just think there's too much is context related. It's just like the games are, we look too much at the stats were like this and the stats were like that. It's like the stats in the second half against Warsaw were good because we scored an early goal. The stats in the game today started falling apart because we conceded the goal and then started falling apart. But the stats 3 weeks later, looking at the game stats, they don't tell you that. But in reality, it's just moments of giving you confidence, killing your confidence, giving you momentum, taking your momentum. That's all it really is. And that's what we moaned about last week, that the manager with the lineup ruined the momentum against Brentford. So, yeah, we don't really help ourselves. Ladies and gentlemen, please do check out At The Bridge podcast, Ollie's podcast, down in the description down below. And of course on Twitter to find all their links to all their various podcast platforms that you might want to listen to. If you haven't already, please check out mine and Pice's podcast called Chelsea Unfiltered. There will be a new episode discussing the Thursday's game against Legia Warsaw and today's game against Ipswich out on Tuesday. Ideally out Tuesday midnight, so essentially Monday night. So check that out if you haven't already. Subscribe if you haven't done that yet either. Hit the like button. That would be massively appreciated. But yeah, sorry guys that I didn't get you more involved in the chat today, but it was a lot of me and Ollie going back and forth. And if we constantly diverted the direction of the chat, it wouldn't have led us very far. But there you go. At the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys for watching. Up the Chelsea. Upwards and onwards, backwards and downwards. I'm almost back to saying that again now because we're down to 6th. You know what I mean? Before this weekend, we were still 4th. So, that was good times. Now we're in Europa League spots. Brilliant. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys for watching. Up the Chelsea, upwards and onwards, upwards and downwards, backwards and downwards. And I will see you next time.